I've never done it before.
You came here to meet a 13-year-old girl.
No, I wasn't going to do anything to her. She told me on the phone she was 18.
To Catch a Predator is one of the most iconic shows in existence. Many people have made parodies. The show was featured on South Park, and later it was revived and revamped as Hanson vs. Predator. So why don't you all relax, take a seat over there, and enjoy these 20 facts you didn't know about To Catch a Predator.
Do you want me to go get you some milk for your brownies?
According to Chris Hansen, about 30% of the men actually take the cookies, tea, or brownies that are offered. Although one time, the brownies were left out overnight, and the first man the next morning almost broke a tooth on them. They were so hard.
Sit down, I made some brownies.
The brownies have been sitting out for more than a day. We didn't realize it, but by now, they've turned rock hard.
So did you bring the weed?
According to Chris Hansen himself, over 300 men were convicted or pled guilty after being caught on the show.
Hey, NBC, 2 words, role-playing, chat room, dude, because the girl was role-playing, man.
In order to keep the decoys away from harm, they're told that if they ever feel uncomfortable, to get away from the man and go right into the back. Usually, the man will wait for the girl, although it's always Chris Hansen that comes back out instead. But there have been times where the man will try to follow her into the back room. That's when you realize just how terrifying this job can be.
If you push those buttons, I got him to sit in the chair, and I was just sitting on the edge of my chair. That's pretty cool, right?
That's wild.
And then out of nowhere, he just stood up and started heading towards me. Do you want me to get you something to drink? He was definitely headed towards me for something.
On the show, the decoys typically ask the men to bring items for them. Things like food, alcohol, you name it.
I got some wine coolers.
The reason for this is because if a man is asked to bring something and he actually brings it, then it strengthens their case against him. If a man says he's going to bring a girl beer and sleep with her, and he shows up with beer, they have a more solid case against him. A lot of predators were requested by the decoys to bring Mike's Hard Lemonade. Mike's Hard Lemonade did not want to be featured on the show because they didn't want people to confuse their good-natured beverage with predators. So they called into the show and asked them to please stop featuring them. They obliged, and Mike's Hard was not seen again.
That's why I'm here. I'm just curious. Yeah, I mean, my car's outside. Please, relax. No, you made me nervous. My car's outside. I can prove that to you.
During the first season, the men were not arrested or taken to jail. When the first show started, it was basically just there to shame these men who would do such a thing. After the show blew up in popularity, though, many fans expressed anger. Why weren't the predators being taken to jail? So, Chris Hansen ensured that in future episodes, they would work with law enforcement to make sure that the bad guys would be arrested upon leaving the decoy house.
She said she was 13.
She did. I'm sorry, sir. I have interest in younger girls. That has just been a fantasy of mine. And
A fantasy?
yes, sir. That would be probably the cleanest, best pleasure.
No, God! No, God, please, no!
I would say.
The cleanest, best pleasure.
Yes, sir.
Early seasons of the show included the men entering the house, getting immediately caught and interviewed by Chris Hansen, and then being arrested. But in later seasons, the decoy sticks around longer, asking the man questions, among other things, before Chris Hansen comes out and it's revealed to be a sting operation. One of the decoys, Casey, is responsible for this change. She said that when she was hired on, she was only 18 and very naive and wasn't sure what she was supposed to do. When the first man came in, the producers said go, and she thought that she was supposed to have a full-on conversation with the man. After that, the people behind the scenes said that they loved the idea and told her to keep doing it when talking to future men.
Well, then what did you want to do?
Well, I want a kiss first.
And then what?
Can I have a kiss first?
Well, let's talk first. We just got here.
Larry Arthauer, and I'll refrain from touching my neighbor's kids again. What I did was not too kind, but I'm a nice guy, you'll come to find.
When Casey was asked how she got hired onto the show, she said that the decoy house used for that season was actually her grandmother's house in real life. The producers explained to her dad that they needed a younger-looking girl to play the decoy. Her sister volunteered her, and when she came downstairs, they said to her, "You're hired." She says that she had no idea what she was hired for, but that she was excited and willing to do it. In her own words, the rest is history and nightmares. There was at least one incident where a man that showed up was actually underage himself. He had lied about his age online to the decoy. They didn't air him on TV though, as he was a minor. One thing that has been on people's minds ever since the beginning is, why are there no females being caught on the show? According to a staff member, she says that it's not for lack of trying. There just never has been a woman to ever show up in the history of the show.
It's not like we're out there, you know, just with girls. We've got boys out there, we've got everything. But women just generally aren't internet predators. In terms of just a woman of her own accord hitting on one of our kids, we just haven't had it happen.
Although one time a woman did message a decoy. She was looking for a girl to have a threesome with herself and her husband. The woman never showed up to the decoy house, but her husband did, where he was promptly arrested.
You are exposed, sir! I'm going to expose you!
Chris Hansen was asked, what does he think of the many parodies that have been made of him and his show and his image? He said he has 2 sons who have grown up with a dad on TV, so it's not a big deal to them. But when the South Park episode aired, he said he was finally cool in their eyes. Casey also said that the entire crew, including Chris Hansen, watched the South Park episode one day on set. She said that he thought it was hilarious and they all had a good laugh.
God, I'm so turned on right now. This is your house? Your parents aren't home, are they?
No, it's cool. Go on inside.
Oh, wait a minute. Chris Hansen! Or why don't you take a seat right over there? Why don't you take a seat?
Oh, I don't want to take a seat.
Have a seat.
No, I'm just gonna go.
Take a seat right over there.
How does he do that?
During Casey's AMA on Reddit, she was asked, do you feel awkward about being in your grandmother's house now, knowing who has stepped through that door? And she said, it doesn't matter anymore because due to Hurricane Sandy, unfortunately, Nana's house has been swept away into the ocean. Perverted Justice, which was the team of adults who pretended to be children online, ended up blowing through all the money that they made while working on the show. They eventually stopped doing their work, citing that in today's world, it's harder to catch predators with the way that the internet has changed. Although some people speculate that this is actually because they don't have any money left anymore due to the improper spending. Many fans wonder if Chris Hansen is ever afraid that a man might turn violent. His response to that is no, he's not worried. In his own words, there is always security on set when they shoot an investigation. However, he also stated that there have been a few tense situations. Once, a man was arrested before he could even get to the house because he was a police officer and they were afraid of him having his weapon on him. Not only did he have his police gun, but he also had 3 other guns and hundreds of rounds of ammo in his car. This isn't the only time a man was caught with horrifying things in his trunk on one of Chris Hansen's shows. On Hanson vs. Predator, which aired in 2016, a man was caught who was an Army veteran, and he had attempted to bring the decoy into his car. Of course, the decoy refused, and after being confronted by Hansen and arrested, police found a loaded gun, a video camera, condoms, a knife, and duct tape in the trunk of his car. In law enforcement, when these items are found with a person, they're usually referred to as a kill kit, because they're all the items that killers normally use when they're going to hurt someone. Whenever Chris Hansen is asked about who was the worst and most memorable predator in his own words, he always says that it was the guy who walked in naked and wanted the decoy to perform oral onto her pet cat.
Well, I think the guys who walked in naked are hard to forget.
2 men have each been caught twice by the show. One guy came to meet an underage boy, and a few days after Chris Hansen caught him the first time, the same guy messaged another decoy that was pretending to be an underage boy.
Now this is just amazing.
This guy leaves our house, shirtless, holding most of his clothes. And less than 24 hours later, there he is in a chat room trying to make a date with another young teenage boy.
The guy came to McDonald's to meet him. When Chris caught him coming out of the McDonald's, he tried to play stupid.
I have been in television for 24 years. I just came to get something to eat. And I have very seldom been at a loss for words. Sir, I just came to get something to eat. But I don't even know what to ask you first.
Another man was caught by the show for messaging a decoy who he thought was an underage girl. After being arrested, he started going to court to face his charges. But less than 24 hours after court, he's caught by Chris Hansen again for messaging another decoy who he thought was an underage girl.
But you gotta explain to me why or how you thought it was okay after having a court date stemming from our last visit, and then within 24 hours you show up at this house to meet another young girl. What are you thinking about?
Part of the reason why the original show went off the air was due to one of the men ending his own life. While he never actually appeared on the show, he was caught talking to the decoys online. He was a prosecutor and was found with inappropriate images of children on his computer, among other things. When the show and police went to his house to confront him, that's when he ended his life. The sister of the man who ended his own life tried to sue the show for $105 million, claiming that the network interfered with police duties and then failed to protect her brother's safety. According to all involved, the case was resolved amicably, although no one is sure how much money she was actually awarded due to probable non-disclosure agreements in place. During the course of the show, there were several occasions where more than one man would show up at the same time. There was even a time where 3 men showed up at once, although this wasn't aired because they had to arrest the third man upon arrival so that the other 2 wouldn't know that he was there and that it was a sting operation.
Brian, what's your last name?
I don't have a last name.
You don't have a last name.
When the show decided to film in Murphy, Texas, that was the beginning of the end. Not only did one of the men end his own life, but of the 20+ men that were caught in the town, not one man was convicted. In fact, the district attorney dropped all the charges against every last man to appear on the show. He said he dropped the charges because he believed that the evidence was tainted due to the involvement of amateurs. The Murphy city manager who approved the show to be filmed in Murphy even lost his job over it. When Chris Hansen did his AMA on Reddit, he was asked, "Is it impossible to read your responses without hearing your own voice? Is that your natural speaking voice, or is it a trained broadcasting voice?" And he responded, "It's all natural. You'd be surprised to know that past news directors actually tried to get me to change it."
Now, what was your plan for the strawberries and whipped cream?
Some people who have watched the show have wondered, is this entrapment? According to Chris Hansen, no, it is not entrapment, because the decoys never make the first move, nor do they raise the issue of having sex. It's always the potential predator that does it first.
There's no entrapment here because the decoys just go into a chat room or whatever venue and they wait to be contacted. They never make the first contact, and they don't raise the specter of sex. That's the potential predator who does that.
So what do you guys think? Is it entrapment or not? Let me know in the comments. I also want to give you all a special thank you for watching. If you've made it this far, I really appreciate it. It's one of my favorite shows, and it was a really fun video to make. I'd like to do another video on a similar show. If anyone has any ideas or requests that you want to see me do, let me know. Until next time, peace out, you guys.